Welcome to my channel. So this is going to be a pretty quick tutorial basically about the building basics. It's mainly stuff that I wish I knew when I first started, because I pretty much had to learn everything as as I went. And this game, Meet You Maker, it's not very good at explaining things. You kind of just got to figure it out, which some people like. I didn't really mind it. It was just kind of annoying at first, but I wanted to go over a couple things. So first and foremost, after you've played for a while, you get the orange coins, right? They're like the parts. And once you've collected enough parts, you can click Claim New Burial Site with a square for PlayStation, and you're able to purchase one. On the top right, right next to these names, like this one is Freelandville, there's Drumright, there's Elkhorn. Firstly, the names can't be changed, so keep that in mind. I had to find out the hard way about that. So names can't be changed, and you see these squares that progressively get larger. That's the difficulty as well as the capacity. There's 3 difficulties. There's normal, there's difficult, or dangerous, danger I think, and then brutal. And depending on the size of it as well as how much stuff is in there is what rank they're on. So when you want to go to buy, you want to get either, if you want to start, like, you might want to start with the smallest one, the normal. And then you can see that this capacity is only 1,000, but if we go to a brutal one, it's up to 4,500. The capacity is going to be the total amount of blocks, traps, and space that is available to you. I do believe also the brutal ones has 2 of the generators you can break for a whole bunch of supplies, like parts and synthite for buying things, buying materials, buying bases, stuff like that. So keep that in mind as well. So see, I got 7, so I would probably only be able to buy this one. I've already bought a few, so I'm not going to buy a whole new one just for this video, but I'm going to go to one of the ones that I had built. The very first one I ever bought was this Ringo Z. Okay, you hold X to get into it, and there's a couple things when you first enter. First off, controllers are wonky. It's kind of like Minecraft. There's a few things they do better than Minecraft, but a few things they do worse. First one is that you always have something in front of you. You can hit the left joystick in to kind of make it vanish, and then triangle to change the shape. There's 3 shapes. There's just your regular block, there's kind of the half like ramp, and then there's this triangle one, which depending on how you place it, some traps can actually go through it, so it's a good way to actually hide your traps. So first basic thing you want to do is, as soon as you start, you want to get rid of everything. If you hit start, at the bottom of your screen there will be one, it'll say Strip Outpost, right? I'm sorry, it's not on the start menu. Hit the build menu, which on PlayStation is kind of the big button right in the middle of the touchpad. When you click it, at the bottom it says Strip Outpost. When you initially buy it, your capacity is going to be somewhere between like 100 to up to 200 blocks that are already taken up by it, just randomly generated from the start to where the gen mat is, which is genetic material. What you want to do when you first get in is strip your outpost and make it bare. This way you can customize it. Now, if you don't want to do that, it by default will have a path directly from the entrance up to where the gen mat is, and then you can change it from there. I like to restart it from the beginning, and then I can make my own path, make my own route for the harvester in order to be able to, have it best customizable as I can. So that took me about 3 entire builds before I actually found that button. Okay, so next thing up is you have your blocks. Now, some of these blocks are special blocks that are part of packs. The Dead by Daylight one's free. If you got PlayStation Plus, you can download the Dead by Daylight game, and you'll have access to these new ones, which are way better at hiding traps. But these are limited, so if you use too many of them, like for instance blue one or of these ones, it will not allow you to put in any more onto your map. So think accordingly when you're planting them. Use them. I guess you can say conservatively. So the first thing you want to do after you've gotten your path, well, I guess the first thing you want to do is set up your path, the direct path with this yellow line as to where your harvester is. And then as you start building, you want to make sure that you have it blocked off. Now, with those ramps like these ones, if you have one missing, but you have one, let's say, we'll make sure it's the right block, right here, okay? Players can slide through that. So if you're trying to either put a trap there, or maybe you forgot to put that out. That could potentially lead to a shortcut that they can get to your genetic material, or use that to avoid all of your traps. So you want to make sure, always block off those and look for any holes in there. The first thing I did was seal off everything, seal off the path to make sure that there was no possible way to get in from the outside. And then after that, I started building everything around it. Now on top of that, the next thing you want to do on here is you want to make sure that you take up as much of the capacity as possible. Mine's currently sitting at 1875. I do believe it started at 1500, but as you start killing a bunch of people, you go active, and you'll have about 18 hours to kill a ton of people over on the right hand side. And as you kill it, you start getting different parts and everything, and as you eventually get it, if you kill enough people within that 18 hours, you're able to prestige it, which will reset your timer for 18 hours. However, if you didn't use up that full 18 hours, you kind of lose it. But the point of that is it will allow you to add more capacity, like more traps, more blocks, whatever have you, as well as allow you to have it active more to get more materials. And everything you get on here, you're able to spend on more bases, or add the parts to the fetus mother thing. And on top of that, this is the absolute best way to get money. You can be raiding brutal bases for hours and hours and still not have enough to upgrade your shoot, because the red currency up on the top left only comes with certain things, like you leveling up, or you leveling up one of your categories, like weapons, traps, bad guys, anything of that sort. So building a base is going to allow you to get far more experience than just raiding over and over and over again, and allow you to be able to buy more bases, which will then allow you to get more killing, which will then also allow you to get more experience. It all kind of works out. On top of this, kind of one of the handy things that people do is, I didn't do it on this one, so that's kind of my fault, but there's always these generator things. They look like a T. If you can hear that loud thumping, that comes directly from this. As you get closer, it gets louder. And a lot of bases have it so that that's kind of a freebie, because when people get those things, it gets a lot of parts, a lot of synthite that they can use. And so naturally you want to kind of leave it open for players to get, otherwise it's a bit of a dick move. I've seen a lot of bases, and I built one too where there's an arrow pointing directly to it, and it kind of helps them to be able to grab it and be able to get a couple more parts so they can build their own stuff. The next thing I did want to say, in terms of, I guess you can call it basics, is you need to make sure you look at the costs at the bottom. All blocks are going to cost 1, and you see the little number right below it. This goes specifically to your capacity, so you can use 15, or in my case 1875 blocks, but then that would be no traps, and you won't be able to activate it because you need to have a minimum amount of defense. Now, traps progressively get more and more expensive depending on which ones you buy, and then on top of that, every time you add a mod to them, it adds a price as well. The one to make it activate only after they've gotten the genetic material adds an extra 5 to your capacity. So you got to constantly keep an eye out to make sure you have enough capacity to add the proper amount of traps, as well as enough traps for the second round when they're trying to escape your place. On here, the one cool thing I guess you could say is that the decals are free. These ones, they make it so you can add a little bit of character to your base, and on top of that, it doesn't cost anything. It costs 0 of the capacity. It takes up no space, so you can add these pretty much anywhere you want. Obviously not on traps, or can you add it on traps? Yeah, see, you can't add it on traps, but it'll at least make your place look nice. I had added some over here just to make this kind of look like a old bathroom or whatever. And then the next one are the decals, or props, I'm sorry. These props, they're very similar to the decals, but they actually have like sustenance to it. You can see this one is actually kind of 3D and pops out. Same thing, they don't cost anything, but they at least make your base look cool, and you can kind of add a bit of a feature to it. My thing that I really love on these is with these ones, if you add them properly, they actually turn it to look like a kind of machine, right? And in doing so, if you put them all around your trap, it makes the traps 1,000 times harder to actually spot. In fact, I'm going to go to one of my outposts right now, and I can show you what it is. This is kind of leading into the next point of contention for building, and that's that make sure your traps aren't too obvious. I mean, it should likely just be a pretty obvious point, but you'd be surprised at some of the bases I went to where you walk in and there's just an arrow pointing right at your face, and it's not like a decoy. Okay, you know what? Let's try... Yeah, we'll do this one. This is one of my newer ones that I still haven't even gotten enough kills to prestige it, but let's see where we're at. Ooh, loading. Okay, same one. So I used the Dead by Daylight decals and everything. Oh, this is the wrong one. But you know what, actually, I think I should still be able to do it. Okay, so we'll get these ones. So, like, let's say you want to blend in that trap, right? We'll get these, and if you put these around it... Oops. You can see as you're walking toward this, it's a lot harder to spot this because it blends in with everything else. Now, obviously, it would need to still fit in because then it's going to stick out like a sore thumb. But you can use decals, I mean, you can use props to your advantage because of the fact that they're 3D and they have movements, they have, you know, little parts that stick out. It makes it a lot harder to spot your trap with when you have decals active. So definitely use those to hide things or help kind of hide your traps. And then... Oh, here's whenever somebody dies, they drop a synthite and parts for you to collect. Now the next one, and this was actually the perfect base for this, is you need to decide what you're going for. So a lot of bases that I've come across are single rows like this, right? And because they're like this, you have the ability that pretty much the traps face nowhere but you. So you walk in here, you got a bomb one up there, or you can have spikes here as well as spikes on the ground, right? So having a cramped, like cluttered space like that, it's a lot easier to get the perfect hit while also making it so the player who's trying to raid your outpost doesn't have a lot of places to avoid. It's a great one, and it's used probably the most common that I've seen throughout these. However, there's another one you can do which is even more challenging, and that's open floor plans. With these ones, the player has to not only worry about traps that may be laid all around this ground, but they also have the people up there that will constantly be aiming toward them. Hornets, specifically, when they shoot, it doesn't go in a complete straight line. It kind of curves towards you. So when you want to try and... yeah, let's see. If you want to try and see what it's like to fight in an open room, things get pretty intense in them. I have an entire base where the entire floor plan is open from the opening all the way to the gen mat. You can literally see it. And the thing is with your limited amount of ammo, grenades, and everything else, those ones are usually the hardest because you have to not only take out the bad guys and the traps, but you also have to retrieve your ammo as you're fighting. So you're constantly, you know, using your grappling hook to swing across the map to get your ammo. Meanwhile, you're being aimed at by one of the bad guys. So I kind of prefer this one. But you see, as you're trying to fight this guy, you have these guys shooting you from the top, bombs dropping. These ones are also spikes afterward. And that's what makes these ones so challenging. So make sure prior to starting on your journey, you want to know what type you want. If it's going to be a cramped one with hidden traps around every corner and behind hidden blocks or, you know, little pyramid triangle blocks. Or if you want a giant floor plan where it's just a straight up gauntlet and, you know, only the strongest are going to survive. I think that's pretty much going to be about it. I just wanted to do a lot of the basics, mainly some things that like I said, I didn't know when I first started that might help you on your journey. Hope you guys all enjoy this game, and I hope I see you guys see your outposts and die multiple times on them. And I hope you guys raid mine. Other than that, have a good day. See ya.